So, there's been some interesting developments in the world of professional wrestling recently. First and foremost, I would like to say that I'm very glad that Hikaru Shida won the AEW Women's Championship. She defeated Saraya for it on an episode of Dynamite just this past week. And she became the new AEW Women's Champion. She's now a three-time Women's Champion, the first woman to ever achieve a three-time championship reign with the AEW Women's Championship, and that's very exciting. But the big thing I'd like to talk about is the apparent war between NXT and Dynamite that happened this past Tuesday. So, since Adam Copeland, or Edge, as he's mostly known by, debuted at AEW, it's very interesting because Edge spent the last, like, what, 20 years, maybe even over 20 years in the WWE. And I never thought he'd ever go to AEW, but it's quite interesting. I think really the only reason why AEW did that was just because Punk was fired and stuff, and they were like, oh God, our attendance is declining, all this stuff is happening. But either way, Adam Copeland, or Edge, is now in AEW, so AEW now has three Adams: Adam Page, Adam Cole, and Adam Copeland. Isn't that cool? But he's still using the name Rated R Superstar, so that's cool. He might not be Edge anymore, but it's going to be a little weird calling him Adam Copeland because that's like his real name, right? So this past episode of Dynamite, the main event was between Luchasaurus and Adam Copeland. Adam making his AEW in-ring debut. He showed up, to help Christian on the Wrestle Dream show. But AEW also had a women's title match, Saraya versus Hikaru Shida. Saraya, of course, being the champion, who won back at All in London when she defeated the champion Shida. It was a triple threat match. Maybe a Fatal 4. I think it was a Fatal 4. Tony Storm, Britt Baker, Shida, and Saraya. But Shida was the champion going in. She was only champion for 1 month. I know the original plan was probably for Jamie Hayter to win, but she's still hurt, so whatever. Either way, Shida lost to belt to Saraya. And now, just about a month later, lost to Shida, defeated Saraya. And she became a three-time women's champion, so that's cool. I'm very excited because I think Shida is the best choice to be champion right now. I'm a Shida fan, so I'm biased. And then Adam Copeland defeated Luchasaurus in his debut match, and that was really cool. But in response to this, NXT, I guess WWE, NXT is the show, they decided, you know what? Shawn Michaels is like head of creative in NXT. We're going to have Cody Rhodes and John Cena. Asuka is going to return, and all this cool stuff's going to happen. The American Badass Undertaker showed up, which I thought was incredible. He just kind of took out Carmelo Hayes, and that was about it. But Cody Rhodes announced a new Dusty Classic Tag Team Tournament, which is really cool. Asuka wrestled Roxanne Perez, which was a pretty decent match, actually. Roxanne is one of the best young talents that WWE has, and Asuka returning to NXT was a big deal. This is the first time since like 2000, maybe 17, I want to say, that she's been in NXT. Asuka was undefeated in NXT for like almost 2 years, and she was the longest reigning, or rather still is the longest reigning NXT Women's Champion of all time. She was undefeated in NXT, had a dominant NXT run, and then she returns to NXT for the first time in years and defeats Roxanne Perez, so she keeps her NXT undefeated streak alive, I guess you could say. And then John Cena showed up. He was really just kind of in Carmelo Hayes' corner when he wrestled Braun Breaker, and then Paul Heyman was in Breaker's corner. But it was a great match, though. Like, it really was. I think Ilya Dragunov and Dominic Mysterio had a really great match, too. It was just a great episode of NXT. And the LA Knight was the guest referee for that match. But NXT didn't have any major title matches. It was just like, oh yeah, John Cena's here. All these guys are here. But it still managed to be one of the most hype and exciting episodes of NXT ever. I mean, I was excited to watch NXT for the first time since like 2020. Can you believe that? And then there were also some rumors about like the Velveteen Dream showing up like at the Performance Center. At least there were, I want to say maybe speculation that he was at the Performance Center, but those just were not true. And also we've learned that WWE is apparently, and I say apparently, because this is mostly just hearsay, they're not interested in hiring back either Punk or the Velveteen Dream. Velveteen, look at that, that's a double fall. Velveteen, obviously very controversial for certain reasons. I'm not going to get into it here. And then Punk apparently just turns out to be a troublemaker. But either way, those apparently those rumors were not true. Velveteen just was not at the performance center like at all. But either way, Jade Cargill also showed up at Fastlane and then again at NXT. She hasn't wrestled a match in NXT yet, but Jade Cargill being there was quite interesting. I think I'm curious to what WWE's plans for Jade Cargill are, because she apparently is going to go straight to the main roster. She's going to skip NXT entirely, and I think that's really interesting. I don't know if they're going to have her go after Rhea Ripley or what. Maybe even have her win the Rumble. I think Asuka's going to win the Rumble. I don't know. I'm just biased because I like Asuka a lot. But that'll be really interesting to see. And also Fastlane, the tag titles changed hands. Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso are now the new undisputed tag team champions, which I really, really didn't expect. Of course, they're probably going to be setting up Jey versus Jimmy at WrestleMania. At least that's what I expect them to do. I don't know if Cody Rhodes is going to go back after Roman. That's at least what I hope is going to happen. Sort of like the whole Undertaker, Shawn Michaels Mania 25-26 thing, where they make it seem like, oh no, Michaels isn't going to wrestle Undertaker again, and then he does. But either way, I'm going to be very excited to see how that ends up. Another thing I'd like to mention is the Statlander Sky Blue match that happened on this past episode, Collision, which was yesterday. Um, I really appreciate Statlander for actually defending her title quite often. You will never see Roman Reigns defending his championship like 4 times in 1 month. You'll never see it. Either way, all joking aside, joking is used very loosely in this instance. I've noticed that Sky Blue is progressively getting darker, like she isn't smiling as much and all that stuff. Probably a heel turn's coming up, but one thing I noticed that whenever Statlander performed her Blue Thunder Bomb, it was a bit of an awkward landing off of it, but either way, it was a good match, and I like Statlander a lot, and I'm glad that she has this really big TBS championship reign. It's really interesting. Um, Crown Jewel's coming up November 4th. Also, Survivor Series is going to be later in that month too. Another Saudi Arabia show and all that. The only match that's been confirmed is like the World Heavyweight Championship match between Seth Rollins, the champion, and Drew McIntyre. It's for the World Heavyweight Championship, and it's a singles match. I'm kind of disappointed that Shinsuke Nakamura didn't win the World Championship, because I think Shinsuke should get a World Championship reign one of these days. He was the NXT champion for a while, but under WWE, outside of NXT, he has never won a World Championship. And I think that's such a shame, because, he should, right? And it's looking highly likely that Rey Mysterio might take on Logan Paul or something. But whatever, right? Um, I think it's cool that, Drew McIntyre is back in the World Heavyweight Championship picture. But this is going to be a really hard-hitting match, because McIntyre is a great wrestler. Seth Rollins is too. I think Rollins is going to retain, but the only real story that has build-up to it is like Seth Rollins and Shinsuke Nakamura. But either way, I think that'll be a good match. And I don't know about Rey Mysterio, Logan Paul. But look, Logan Paul's a good wrestler. He really is. I mean, he's not Rey Mysterio good, but that'd be a great match if it does happen. It really would be. And I've even heard some people think that it might be LA Knight versus Roman Reigns at Crown Jewel, which I think it's too early. I really, really do. I think it's too early. Um, a lot of people also want Roman Reigns to take on Cody at WrestleMania next year. Some people think it's going to be Roman and The Rock, which I really, really hope it isn't. I think LA Knight might win the Rumble. Whoever wins the Rumble is going to go after the World Heavyweight Championship most likely, because they're going to keep Roman protected. But that's what's been going on in the world of professional wrestling recently. Mostly just the war between like NXT and Dynamite that happened this past week. But outside of that, we'll just have to see what happens in the development in this nice choreographed dance that is professional wrestling. So until then.